You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com.
On 15th August this week, India celebrated its 77th Independence Day. And we did so with an immense pride of becoming the world's 5th largest economy on its way to becoming the 3rd largest by 2030. Today on the Urban Agenda, we pose a simple question. Do the skylines of India's cities reflect and represent its growing economic might? Do our cities need to go higher or taller? After all, the world's major cities are defined by their spectacular skylines, be it New York, Hong Kong, Tokyo, or Shanghai. According to a report collated by CBRE, when it comes to tall buildings and skyscrapers, Mumbai, our tallest city, lags behind many of the major cities of the world. Here are the stats. Hong Kong has 657 tall buildings. Now, these are defined by world standards as taller than 150 meters. Shenzhen in China has 510. New York City has 421. Dubai follows with 395. Then there's Guangzhou, Shanghai, Tokyo, and finally Mumbai in India at just about 100 plus. On today's Urban Agenda, we ask experts, why are India's cities not going vertical? And more importantly, is that the way we should aspire to go? Or should India adopt a different model of growth for its cities? Joining me today are architect Hafeez Contractor, who needs no introduction. Many of the best buildings in India are built by him. And of course, Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and CEO of CBRE India, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa. Their report also forms the base of this discussion. We have with us Maheep Singh Thapar, urban planner from Hyderabad and a prolific writer on many of the urban planning issues that we face today. My first question, Mr. Contractor, this is no easy debate. There are arguments on both sides. Most important one is, by not going vertical, we are allowing our cities to spread out horizontally, making people commute much longer hours to work, which means huge traffic jams, very poor carbon footprint, many private vehicles and mental stress. Which side of the debate are you on, sir?
As far as I'm concerned, I have been advocating going high for years and years and years. High-rises all over the world, a lot of them are built for glamour, for other purpose. Now, if you look at India, for us, the high-rise is the only solution because we have a fabulous population of 1.3 billion, okay? And we have only 2.5% of the land. Now, unless and until we make very, very judicious way of planning, then and then only that is our survival kit. Otherwise, we are making very, very big mistakes as far as the forest land, the farmland, food securities, climate change, global warming, all of this. From another side, we are to house all our population. If you look at it, more than 50% of our population doesn't have proper housing.
Right.
Okay. Now, all of that has to be taken into account. And from another side, with climate change, we have to increase our forest cover. We have to, at least retain our, farmland. All cities are just gobbling, and they are increasing and gobbling the farmland.
Absolutely. If we keep expanding horizontally, this is a very interesting debate. Mr. Contractor, I'm going to come back to you. Let me get the opening remarks from other panelists. Anshuman Magazine, now that this debate is particularly hard because, taller buildings on one side we say are absolutely critical if we don't want to eat into the forest land. And if we keep expanding horizontally, that's what we are going to do, as Mr. Contractor has said. And we've got a tall agenda of housing 50% of the population of India, which is going to become urban in some form or the other. But there are also tall buildings are huge material guzzlers, water guzzlers, energy guzzlers. So why not stay low?
Yeah, no doubt. First of all, there's very energy and material, the capital cost goes up significantly. The cost of construction goes up by 20 to 25% in tall buildings. And also in India in particular, as you know, A, the FSIs are low, and B, there is a premium. So if you have to pay a premium, a developer who wants to build a tall building has to pay a premium FSI cost on that. So overall the cost goes up. And at one end, you can also argue that in India, our infrastructure overall is still not up to the mark to accommodate tall buildings. But like what Mr. Contractor said, which I totally agree, that we cannot house our population. There is going to be a huge migration from rural to urban areas in India in particular. We are one of the largest, if not the largest populated country in the world. How do we provide that housing? How do we accommodate office space if we don't go tall? And like Manisha, you mentioned, the most important part now is in spite of buildings themselves requiring huge energy, huge cost of construction, materials, etc. But overall, it lowers the carbon footprint. We had done a survey, CBRE had done a survey on live and work shop survey, it was called, where more than half of the respondents said that they want to live near the city, and most of them do not want to commute more than 30 minutes one way. Right. So if you follow a compact environment, have tall buildings, your commute times go less. You need less overall in that cluster. The amount of water, electricity, energy, transportation, everything else, the average cost goes up because you are in a larger cluster. So as a country, we have no choice but to go tall. Of course, we have to do many things to accommodate the tall building development.
Okay. For all our audience, let me, focus on what Mr. Contractor and you've said, which is our building bylaws, and you've mentioned FAR or FSI. Now, that's been the biggest culprit behind the country's short skyline. Now, these are mandated by the government, the state government, and they've been in places for decades. Now, what is FSI? And it's going to be there on your screen as well. This is the ratio between the total amount of floor space a developer can construct to the plot of land that floor space is being built on. So let's say you have a plot of 1 hectare and an FSI of 1. What do? You can build 1 hectare of floor space, half a hectare on the ground floor and half a hectare on the first floor. So that's how you accommodate, and you cannot go higher. This is just to demystify some of the conversation and the terminologies that we will have to use to explain this matter to you. Now, Maheep, the FAR or FSI norms or the building codes prescribed by a state which allow for how tall a building can be built. Let me ask you, you're in Hyderabad. There is no FSI control over there, right? How tall have the buildings gone? I mean, now Hyderabad, I know, is second highest in terms of tall cities. It's overtaken Delhi NCR and all other cities of India. So is this a good thing? Or do you believe that there is another argument to say, when should we go high? What do we need to support that going high or vertical?
Yeah, thanks, Manisha. And I'd like to give you a very quick background to this whole FSI thing that for decades has been discussed, I would say pre-2000, year 2000, and then architects like Hafeez, and they have been propagating verticalization for a long time. They've done projects. So this has always been a kind of a debate in the urban planning sector, is how high can we go? Now, in 2006, the Hyderabad city took a path of reform and liberalized. When we say there is no FSI. That's not the way to put it. I would say there's no FSI restriction, as you have correctly put.
Okay.
FSI is not a restriction. So what defines the net FSI or the gross FSI you achieve is determined by market forces now. And there are checks and balances in the regime itself, which is you have to have a minimum road width, you have to have a larger plot size, you have to leave all round setback, right? And then you have to pay a fee as you go vertically up. So a lot of cost dynamics come into play, a lot of demand supply comes into play. Is it viable to build such buildings, whether for commercial or for residential?
Okay, you've raised a very important question that look, even when there are no FSI restrictions, there are many other factors that one needs to, or a developer will look into before he decides how tall he has to go. But I have a very basic question, Mr. Contractor, and this is a dilemma I'd like you to solve for me. Now, land scarcity, which is what you've mentioned, is the biggest reason for India to go vertical. But if I look at, cities where buildings have gone taller, it's not as if housing is becoming more inclusive or less expensive. Mumbai, that's your city. It's not going in either of those two directions. Neither has Hyderabad. For that matter, even prices in Hyderabad have now started rising quite dramatically.
You have to look at the future. I said it to you some time back that any law that you make in urban area, the results will come out after the earliest by 8 to 10 years. What our other panelists are talking, that, yes, they are expensive, all that, you don't have to look at that. Look at the future. Look at, global warming. These are very, very large things. Did you see the TV last night? How, floods are taking place? There'll be more floods, there'll be more earthquakes, there'll be more, typhoons, this, that. You have to think about all that. What FSI for last so many years has been the government tool to control a lot of building industry. Forget about FSI, think about how you have to condense your cities. Make your existing cities more intense. Give proper policies that, the footprint of the cities have to be restricted. Don't have one ring road, two ring roads, three ring roads, and we feel that we are progressing. No, you are not progressing. India is one of the land where we have to make our new urban areas, and we cannot go the way other countries have moved, because they didn't have these kind of populations. They didn't have this kind of a growth that is going to be in the next 8 or 10 years.
I absolutely agree with you. We are having this discussion because we are saying 77th year of independence, and look, why are we not going vertical? So points well taken. Anshuman, let me come to you. The pressures on infrastructure, even when there is FSI and market forces. All right. So now developers are shy of going taller beyond the point of time or beyond the point of height, let's say, because they say, look, we may pay EDC, but where is the infrastructure? Whether it's energy or it's water to the top floor, parking, roads which are around, state support is very, very minimal. So let's agree that we have to go vertical. How do we make it possible? Can you give me some solutions which you think might be able to change that? We can fix what we haven't been able to so far.
Manisha, you're spot on, and the solutions are very difficult. And sometimes sitting in India, of course, you can get cynical that it may be impossible, because number one, I feel more than the land, I don't think there is scarcity of land. There's scarcity of infrastructure. We have enough and more land. And one of the challenges is that is left to the city level municipalities, to state level, and then center. We'll have to forget about real estate, focus on a power policy. Do we have enough, all the issues we're facing, that why in India distribution, generation of power is not totally privatized, for example. Are we looking at alternate energy, and why isn't that encouraged even more and resolve the power situation? you look at traffic management, simple, we don't, Mr. Contractor mentioned about ring roads. I think huge amount of work needs to be done first on infrastructure before even if we talk about training people, because high-rise buildings need skilled manpower, more maintenance, more technology. We don't even have people with that experience. So before even we come to the real estate side, I think infrastructure should be the number one and only focus for the government. And the whole shift in mindset, I think what Mr. Contractor also alluded, the whole shift in mindset, because still the mindset is these tall buildings are, meant for, advanced cities, rich countries. It's not, it is true, it does take more investment, but the fact is we have a challenge of large population. We have the challenge of rural to urban migration. Those other countries don't.
Rather than building 3 and 4 ring roads as is happening. All right, we're going to take a short break, but this discussion has to carry on. What I'm hearing from all our experts is that we have to go vertical. We continue with the solutions on how to make that happen for India's cities. Stay with us.
You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com